Welcome to Psych Sessions Re-Release. This is a curated series of episodes that we have recorded over the years that may have been lost in the library. So enjoy listening to some of the best from Psych Sessions.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Teaching. I'm so thrilled to be here with my colleagues. I'm Susan Nolan. No, I apologize. I'm Eric Landrum.
I'm Alinka Kinsler Smith.
Asani Seewell.
And I'm Susan Nolan.
So I wanted to ask each of you, I'm going to form a new organization. Would you please be a part of it? It's a simple yes or no response from each of you.
So Eric is setting us up to demonstrate how to say no, which is the conversation that we're going to have today. How do you say no within your position to requests?
Right. We all get asked to be in the academic world, we all get asked to be on committees, to serve on a student's thesis or independent study, or the dean or the provost asks you to serve on this or that, or your department chair. How do you say yes? How do you say no? How do you do time management?
Oh, wow. That sounds like an amazing opportunity. Can you give me a few days so I can think about it and get back to you?
First off, that is an awesome strategy to give yourself some time and not answer on the spot.
Yeah, a little time for reflection, right? Mm-hmm.
I want to just throw a little wrench in because sometimes, depending again on where you are in the chain, it's harder to say no. So if you are untenured and you are new to the department and you want to be liked, there is this kind of, oh, I can't do it, but okay. That can wind up spannering you down the line because you wind up being pulled in so many different directions. So that creates a challenge. The other thing for me also is, when in the semester am I being asked to do all this? What else am I juggling?
We talked about this in our mentoring episode as well, because we were talking about the role of mentors in helping us decide which opportunities to accept. And if you are lucky enough to have a chair, department head, who is also a mentor, that person can be really useful. In many departments, our department, for example, assigns mentors formally, and that's someone you can check in with. And then you can actually say to the person who's asking you, I need to check with my chair. And it gives you that sort of cushion. And maybe you can even say that in some cases, even when you're not checking with your chair, just to gain that. If you're very junior, that's a way to that something that people will respect. Oh yes, she can't just do everything without checking with her department.
Yeah, I would also add a couple things there. Also hopefully have a mentor in your department who's not the chair, because it's oftentimes the chair asking you to be on a committee. So you might need to check in with someone who is not the chair. Connecting to what Yinka said, be strategic about this, because if you're doing research on student development, let's say, and you're asked to be on the college academic advising committee, then it might be really a good idea to go ahead and be on that committee, because you might make connections across your college and you might get research ideas and you might get a place to actually implement, perhaps down the road, some interventions, some studies. So anytime for me, if I could do a 2-for-1 special, if I could serve a committee where I'm required to serve on X number of committees, and if I could see a dovetail into my teaching or scholarship, then that's a good idea. Now, as a mentor, when I talk to my faculty about it and they are excited about some new thing that's come along, and I don't ever want to dampen their excitement about that kind of stuff, and they want to do something new, one of my stock questions to them is, that sounds awesome, Cindy. What are you going to stop doing? Because declining amounts of sleep is really not appropriate for our health, although technically it's none of my business. But that's great. You want to start doing this extra thing. Awesome. What are you going to stop doing?
That really connects with something that I was thinking about, Eric, which is the importance of keeping track of what you are doing. So I think that early in my career, I got into a little bit of trouble there because I wasn't keeping good notes about all the things I had said yes to. And then before I knew it was like I was overcommitted. But if you actually are keeping good track of the things that you are involved in, I think that can be really helpful in providing some guidance around what to say yes or to say no to. And not just the things that you're involved in that are related to maybe your academic institution, but other parts of your life as well, too, because all these things take up time. There's only 24 hours in the day. And Eric, as you're saying, we probably should sleep and eat and get some movement in and all those kinds of things. Yeah. So I think that can be really helpful. I think, too, if you can figure out at your institution what the requirements are around service. At my university, it's expected when you go out for tenure that you're going to have service at the departmental level and then the college level and university level, also some things in the community. And so knowing what the expectations are there could also help in saying yes or no.
Yeah, I think tracking it is really super important. That's an important point. And I would imagine for almost every institution, for folks listening to this, you're doing some sort of annual evaluation on some sort of digital platform. And so I'm entering my service each year. But I'll tell you something perhaps a bit unusual that I've started doing. In my email, in my Gmail, I use labels. Sometimes they're called folders, depending on your system. I actually have a no folder. When someone asks me to do something and I decline in all my other labels, I put a no label on it. So I actually keep track of the things I say no to, almost as a reminder that it's okay to say no. And I think I have mentioned this in another one of our episodes. A colleague and friend of mine, Mona Zhu at Idaho State University, she has established a no committee so that when she gets asked to, will you serve on this or will you serve on that? She has a group of friends and colleagues that she trusts. And she says, I'll get back to you. And she contacts her no committee and says, do you think this is a good idea for me to do? And then she gets feedback from her friends and colleagues and trusted individuals in her life. And then they help her make the decision, but she ultimately makes it.
I've known people who have a no partner, which is a similar kind of
no
thing.
partner, no committee, no folder, whatever tools of the trade you need to use. Let's face it, we all give away our time and talent freely, and the pro bono benefits to the community, to the discipline are wide. And the more things we say no to, the more often we can say yes to the things that really matter. Mm-hmm. And that might be our family, that might be ourselves, that might be self-care, especially during a pandemic.
I think we also have to mention the particular pressures faced by women and BIPOC people in terms of we want representation on all these different committees. And there actually are data that show that this is a real serious pressure. We also, I know the data for women. We know that when women say no, they're asked more, so they have to say no more, and they're judged more harshly for saying no than men. So these are things that have to be factored in as well. How do you protect yourself if you're somebody who's getting asked to do a whole lot of things? How do you deal with that?
And I just wanted to add, yes, we're focusing on what happens within the academic institution, but even things that seem wonderful, like being invited to come and do a guest talk in another country or at some conference. These are all wonderful things too. But also sometimes we have to balance out and say, thank you for that fantastic invitation. I am so honored. I am so touched. But no.
I actually had a great piece of advice from someone years ago that I now actually do. When you're asked to give a talk or whatever, that especially if it involves travel, ask yourself, would I be excited if it were tomorrow? And then you think about, all that, like I'm getting on a plane tomorrow, I'm transferring. Like when you start thinking about it like that, and a lot of things to me, yes, I would love to jump on a plane and go to that tomorrow. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, no. And that helps you to make, it's the 80-year-old self that Asani brought up in another podcast of the idea, would my 80-year-old self be glad I did this? It's a version of that.
Or in our current environment, do you want to do another Zoom conference or Zoom meeting? How much longer in front of your computer are you going to be?
But Yinka, let me add to what you just said, because I think it's really important, and it may be even more important for BIPOC individuals or women compared to white men. When you get asked to do this thing with regard to service, and you get asked to be a keynote speaker at an international conference and to travel across the world and give this talk for free, and you're inclined to say no, to the extent people are comfortable doing this, I would encourage people to think about this response. I'm seriously considering your offer. Are you comfortable with my $5,000 honorarium? Because then you put them in the position of saying no. Because again, I just said it, academics undervalue their expertise. And paying your international travel and your hotel and your per diem and all of that is very generous. But they're really not paying for access to the expert. And they're expecting you to give it away for free. And that should be our choice when we do that. And companies and organizations oftentimes have a bunch of money. When I think about my campus, when I think about your campuses, your provost, your deans, they have money. They can say they don't have money, but you all know that when there is a special topic, a special project, when they want a certain speaker on campus, ta-da, they find the money. All right. Organizations find the money when they want something to happen. I would encourage anyone who's asked to speak at a conference to come back and say, I would really seriously consider that for a $10,000 honorarium.
With the caveat that most psychological organizations like STP and EPA and all of these organizations don't have $5,000 stipends. Yinka, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to push back on Susan just a little bit. It's not that they don't. STP doesn't pay $5,000 stipends, but STP has an amount of money in the bank that is over $1 million. So they may not currently pay that in stipends, but please don't say that they don't have the money in the bank.
I actually think this would be a great topic for another podcast.
Okay.
I seriously do.
We can stop talking about it now.
I think that it is very true, Eric, that I think that there is a point where we do have an expertise that sometimes we have to say, we're not good at that. We're very much about helping and giving away.
Yep.
And it's something that's taken me a long place to get to. But the other thing I wanted to add, that sometimes for those of us who are people of color, who are in the minority group, we wind up saying yes. And I'll speak for myself, because I want other young, upcoming students, people in the field to see that I can do this too.
Yep.
Like I want them to also be inspired and motivated to think that, oh, yes, oh, she's doing it, I can do it too. So that sometimes is where we get caught in the, I can't do this, I don't have the time and the energy, but got to represent.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't argue with that at all. And I get it, because doing that thing for free can not only be the role model within your institution, within your own group, but it can help you have access to other opportunities. It can help you have access to publishers and books. It can help you have access to NSF grants and build your name and reputation. So saying no because they're not offering an honorarium is not necessarily, that's not my advice there, isn't necessarily good advice. I hear you loud and clear, but so I get it. It's a complicated decision. It depends on where you are in your career, what your goals are. Absolutely.
And this doesn't obviously apply to Yinka at her stage in her career, but for people who are untenured, I think it's really important to make sure that you're doing the things that are necessary at many institutions. Absolutely. Research without publications, it doesn't matter what else you're done. So I think you have to protect yourself, because in order to represent, you have to get to the point in your career where you're safely tenured, or whatever that security is in your position.
And Susan, I don't mean to pick on STP. By the way, APA has millions of dollars. APS has it as well. They're just in the habit of getting people to give talks for free because that's what they've always done. Psi-Chi does it. Psi Beta does that. So I don't mean to pick on STP. It's just, we've always done it that way. So we get in the habit of expecting it. And the thought of paying people oftentimes sends people into shock. But if you look at our colleagues in business, I've talked to colleagues in business where when they get paid a $5,000 honorarium to give a 1-minute talk at a luncheon, they go, that is super low. Why did you take that little? Wow. Last year, they gave the speaker $10,000 at the same talk. So it's about expectations. And again, we all give away our time and talent for free a lot. And that's not to say that we shouldn't. I think there is something to say, if we don't value us, others may not value us.
Yeah.
So there's that versus Yinka's really good point about modeling this for other people in the discipline. So saying no is difficult and complicated.
I also love Yenka's idea of returning to this in a future podcast episode and expanding on this idea of what our time is worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I just say that as you get older, your perception of that changes. I can make more money, but I can't make more time.
Yeah, very true.